In the quiet halls of modern medicine, where scientists work tirelessly to cure disease, decode genetics, and extend the boundaries of life itself, there exists a strange and powerful legacy, one that began not in a laboratory or in the pages of a medical journal, but in the body of a young African-American woman in 1951. Her name was Henrietta Lacks, and though she passed away over 70 years ago, her cells, known to the world simply as HeLa, are still alive today, multiplying endlessly in labs around the globe. They have helped scientists understand cancer, develop vaccines, unlock the secrets of DNA, and even test the effects of zero gravity. Her cells have saved millions of lives. And yet, for decades, almost no one knew her name. Henrietta Lacks was born Loretta Pleasant on August 1st, 1920, in Roanoke, Virginia. She was the ninth of 10 children in a struggling African-American family during the era of segregation and deep systemic inequality. After her mother died in childbirth when Henrietta was just 4, her father moved the children to Clover, Virginia, and parceled them out to relatives. Henrietta grew up in a tobacco farming community, living in a log cabin that had once been slave quarters on her white great-grandfather's plantation. She worked in the fields from a young age, barely educated past elementary school, but described by those who knew her as smart, kind, and strikingly beautiful. She married her first cousin, David Day Laxx, in 1941, and together they moved to Turner Station, a vibrant black working-class neighborhood in Baltimore. Henrietta was a devoted mother to 5 children: Lawrence, Elsie, David Jr., Deborah, and Joseph. In January 1951, Henrietta visited Johns Hopkins Hospital, the only major hospital in the area that treated black patients, after feeling a knot in her womb. She was diagnosed with a particularly aggressive form of cervical cancer. At just 31 years old, she began treatment with radium, the best and most dangerous therapy available at the time. During her first procedure, without her knowledge or consent, her doctor collected 2 tissue samples, one healthy, one cancerous, and passed them on to a researcher named Dr. George Guy. This practice of harvesting cells from patients without consent was common at the time, and Henrietta never knew the samples had been taken. She returned home unaware that her body had just made history. Dr. Guy had been trying for years to grow human cells in culture, but they always died within a few days. When he received Henrietta's samples, something miraculous happened. Her cancer cells didn't just survive. They thrived. They doubled every 20 to 24 hours. They were unstoppable. Henrietta's cells, dubbed HeLa from the first 2 letters of her first and last name, were the first immortal human cell line ever grown. They were unlike anything science had seen before. While Henrietta's health quickly deteriorated, she suffered immense pain, underwent repeated radiation treatments, and died just months later on October 4th, 1951. Her cells lived on. She was buried in an unmarked grave in Clover, Virginia. Her family, already struggling financially and emotionally, had no idea what had been done with her tissue samples or what would follow. As HeLa cells multiplied in laboratories, they revolutionized medical research. They were used to test the first polio vaccine, developed by Jonas Salk in the early 1950s. They were exposed to radiation, toxins, and viruses to better understand how cells react to environmental stress. They helped unravel the structure of DNA, contributed to cancer research, and advanced treatments for HIV/AIDS. They were used in cloning, gene mapping, and fertility treatments. HeLa cells went to space to study the effects of zero gravity on human biology. They were central to developing drugs for leukemia, Parkinson's, and COVID-19. Nearly every major advance in cell biology since the 1950s owes something to HeLa. But while scientists and pharmaceutical companies built careers and fortunes on the back of these cells, Henrietta's family remained in the dark. It wasn't until the 1970s, more than 20 years after her death, that her children learned the truth. Scientists began contacting them for blood samples to study genetic markers, yet they offered little explanation. The Laxx children were confused, scared, and mistrustful. Most of them had grown up poor, some with no access to health care, all while their mother's cells were being sold and shipped around the world. The revelation left the Lacks family feeling exploited and betrayed. How could something so important, something literally made of their mother, be taken, used, and profited from without their knowledge? How could so many benefit, while her own descendants struggled to afford a doctor's visit? The story of Henrietta Lacks became a case study in the ethics of medical research. Who owns your body once it's left the hospital? Do scientists have a right to use your tissues without asking? Where is the line between scientific progress and human dignity? For many years, Henrietta remained a ghost behind the initials HeLa. Her legacy was anonymous, buried under decades of silence and scientific detachment. That began to change in 2010, when journalist Rebecca Sklipp published The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. The book combined investigative reporting with intimate storytelling, weaving together Henrietta's life, her family's pain, and the scientific breakthroughs her cells had made possible. It became a bestseller, sparked global conversations, and was later adapted into an HBO film starring Oprah Winfrey. In the years that followed, public recognition of Henrietta Lacks grew. In 2013, the National Institutes of Health reached an agreement with the Lacks family, giving them some control over access to Henrietta's genetic data. While the family still received no financial compensation for the vast profits made off HeLa cells, this was a symbolic and meaningful step toward acknowledging their rights. Monuments were dedicated, scholarships established, and in 2021, 70 years after her death, the World Health Organization honored Henrietta posthumously for her immense contribution to global health. Henrietta's story continues to resonate not only because of what was taken from her, but because of what she gave, unknowingly and unwillingly, to the world. Her cells taught us how life works, how diseases grow, and how science can save lives. But her story also reminds us that progress must never come at the cost of people's humanity. The power of HeLa came not just from its biology, but from its origin in a real, living woman, one with dreams, struggles, and a family who loved her. Henrietta loved to dance. She painted her fingernails bright red. She was known for her warm smile and generous spirit. She was a young mother whose life was cut short, yet whose body gave rise to miracles. Today, her name is spoken with reverence not only in research labs, but in classrooms, courtrooms, and hospitals around the world. Her story has become a symbol of both scientific triumph and the fight for ethical accountability. In the end, Henrietta Lacks didn't choose to become a scientific pioneer. She wasn't asked. But because of her, we better understand cancer, viruses, reproduction, and genetics. Because of her, millions are alive today. Her cells may be immortal, but so is her impact, and now, finally, so is her name. What do you think about Henrietta's legacy? Should patients have ownership over their tissues? Has enough been done to right the wrongs of the past? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, subscribe for more deep dives into the lives that changed history, often from the shadows. Thank you for watching. Stay curious. Stay human.